When people first heard that the woman had given birth to 12 boys, they clapped in disbelief, some out of culture, some out of mockery. In her small, cracked apartment where paint peeled like dried wounds, 12 thin voices cried at different times, hungry cries that never seemed to end. She was not rich. She was not even comfortable. She lived below average, borrowing to survive, begging to breathe. Yet she kept giving birth as if children were blessings that could magically turn into food. Her husband wanted sons, strong sons, plenty sons, and she was foolish enough to believe that the more she gave birth, the more valuable she would become in his eyes. So she opened her womb again and again, reckless, greedy, arrogant, dragging innocent lives into suffering. Even neighbors whispered that she was stupid, rubbish-minded, an idiot who mistook childbirth for achievement. The house was always loud, not with laughter, but with hunger. Plates were empty, school fees were unpaid, medical bills stacked like curses. Debt followed the family like a shadow that refused to leave. She owed shop owners, landlords, loan sharks, even friends who stopped smiling when they saw her coming. Still, she kept boasting about her sons as if numbers could replace sense. No plan, no future, just childbirth and foolish pride. Some days the children slept with swollen stomachs and dry lips, staring at the ceiling, learning pain before learning joy. Their mother would shout at them, blame them, insult them, yet she was the architect of their misery. At this point, if you are enjoying this story, please like and subscribe to the channel. Also, drop a comment telling us where you are watching from: London, California, Jamaica, Trinidad, New York, Florida, Atlanta, Nigeria, or South Africa. We would truly love to know, and we give shout-outs to the first 3 people who comment. As the debts grew heavier, the laughter in the house completely died. Hunger became normal. Fear became permanent. And unknowingly, this foolish woman had already started counting her sons, not as children, but as future sacrifices to survival. Debt does not knock politely when it comes to collect. It storms in, breaks doors, and takes what hurts the most. One morning, the woman woke up to angry voices outside her room. Men she owed money to stood there, arms crossed, eyes cold. She had promised them payment again and again, lying with confidence, swearing that help was coming. But help never came. Only more pregnancies, more mouths, more foolish decisions. That day, there was no food in the house, not even gari. Her husband was nowhere to be found, as usual, hiding from responsibility like a coward. And there she stood, shaking, sweating, her lies finally exhausted. The men did not want excuses. They wanted payment. Since there was no money, they took what they could. 2 of her sons were dragged away that day, crying, holding on to her wrapper, screaming her name. She screamed too, but her scream was empty, useless, the sound of a stupid woman finally meeting the consequences of her greed. Neighbors watched in silence. Some shook their heads. Others whispered that this rubbish woman deserved it. How do you give birth like a machine and plan nothing? How do you bring children into the world just to hand them over like goats? Her sons were taken to work as houseboys, laborers, anything to cover her stupid debts. She collapsed on the floor after they left, but it was not pity she deserved, it was shame. After that day, the house changed forever. Fear lived in every corner. The remaining boys grew quieter, their eyes older than their ages. School became a forgotten dream. Hunger became sharper. Some of the boys started roaming the streets, stealing scraps of food, running errands for dangerous men just to survive. At night, the mother would sit and cry loudly, blaming everyone except herself. She insulted her children, cursed her fate, and still spoke proudly about having 12 sons, as if pride could cook soup. Foolish, arrogant, greedy woman. Her womb was busy, but her brain was empty. From that point on, survival became a battle among brothers. Love began to fade, childhood ended early, and death, slow and patient, had already started walking toward that house. The boys who remained in the house stopped acting like children. Hunger does not allow play. It does not allow dreams. It teaches survival early and brutally. The eldest among them took silent leadership, waking before sunrise to search for scraps, odd jobs, or anything that could be exchanged for food. Some days they washed cars. Other days they carried heavy loads in the market, their thin arms shaking under weights meant for grown men. Their mother watched them leave every morning, not with guilt, but with expectation. She had given birth to them, so in her foolish mind, they owed her survival. She never apologized. She never admitted her greed. Instead, she insulted them when they returned with little or nothing, calling them useless, lazy, stupid boys, as if she herself was not the greatest failure in that house. As the months passed, the streets swallowed some of the sons. One joined a group of older boys involved in theft. Another became a messenger for men who dealt in illegal things no child should know about. They were beaten, chased, threatened, and corrupted before they even understood what life meant. Yet, the mother still refused to change. She still talked about how her husband wanted sons, how she had done her duty as a woman. Arrogant, brainless reasoning. She had brought 12 lives into the world with no plan, no wisdom, no care. Even neighbors stopped helping. Compassion dries up when foolishness refuses to learn. Sickness soon entered the house like an uninvited guest. One of the younger boys fell ill, his body weak from years of hunger. There was no money for the hospital. The mother borrowed again, sinking deeper into debt like an idiot digging her own grave. The boy died quietly one night, his small body cold before sunrise. She screamed when she saw him, tearing her clothes, but her tears could not wash away her responsibility. She had given birth to him only to starve him. The other boys watched their brother's lifeless body, fear locking their hearts. Death had finally claimed one of them, and it would not be the last. That night, something broke inside the family completely. Hope vanished, love thinned, and the curse of foolish childbirth tightened its grip, ready to collect more lives. After the first death, the house became colder, even during hot afternoons. The boys no longer cried loudly when hungry. They had learned that noise solved nothing. Their mother, instead of changing, became worse, bitter, loud, more insulting. She blamed the dead child for being weak, as if strength could grow without food. What kind of stupid, foolish woman thinks like that? She still borrowed money carelessly, still argued with neighbors, still spoke proudly about her womb as if it were an achievement. Arrogant and greedy, she refused to accept that her decisions were killing her children one by one. Among the boys, there was one she openly favored. She called him her star, her proof that her suffering would pay off. She pushed him harder than the others, sending him out early and keeping him out late to work. The child was barely strong enough to carry himself, yet he carried the weight of the whole family. He skipped meals so his mother could eat. He hid his pain so she would not complain. Stress sat on his chest like a stone. Still, she insulted him whenever he slowed down, calling him stupid when money was small, threatening him with curses. What kind of rubbish mother destroys the very child trying to save her? One evening, the favorite son did not return on time. Night fell, fear grew. When he was finally brought home by strangers, his body was limp, his face pale. He had collapsed from exhaustion and hunger while working. There was no money for treatment. The mother screamed again, louder than before, but screams could not replace care. By morning, the child was gone, dead. her favorite, the one she leaned on, the one she drained dry. This time, her cry shook the compound, but even then, people whispered that she had killed him herself. Stress killed him. Hunger killed him. Her foolish greed killed him. After his death, the remaining boys changed. Something hardened in them. Love for their mother cracked. Respect disappeared. Some stopped coming home at all. Others stayed only out of duty, feeding her while slowly dying inside. The family was no longer a family. It was a broken camp of suffering, led by a woman too stupid to admit her sins, too arrogant to repent, and too greedy to stop destroying lives. By now, the house was half empty. Some sons were gone with debtors. Some were swallowed by the streets. Some were buried in shallow graves before their lives even began. The remaining boys were no longer boys in spirit. They had become tired men trapped in young bodies. Ironically, it was these same children, the ones she had brought into suffering, who now fed her. At dawn, they went out to work, selling water, washing plates, carrying blocks, doing anything legal or illegal that would not kill them instantly. At night, they returned with small money, placing it in her hands like adults providing for a child. And she collected it without shame. No apology, no regret, just expectation. Truly a foolish and greedy woman. She complained constantly. If the food was small, she insulted them. If the money was little, she cursed them. She never once asked how their day went or if their bodies hot. Her womb had produced sons, but her heart had produced cruelty. Neighbors openly mocked her now. They called her stupid, arrogant, brainless, a woman who used childbirth to cover stupidity. Yet she still defended herself, shouting that she gave her husband what he wanted, male children. As if that excuse could bring back the dead or heal the broken. One of the boys, barely in his early teens, worked until his hands cracked and bled. Another developed a cough that never went away, worsened by nights sleeping outside. Still, they brought food home. Still, they fed the woman who ruined their futures. Love had turned into duty, duty had turned into bitterness. Some nights the boys talked quietly among themselves about living forever. But guilt held them back. She was their mother, even if she was foolish, even if she was rubbish-minded. Slowly, sickness and hopelessness continued to haunt them. Every day felt like waiting for the next death. The woman grew thinner, not from hunger, but from fear. She was beginning to realize that the sons she wanted so badly were disappearing. But realization came too late. Damage had already been done. Lives had already been wasted. And fate, cruel but fair, was preparing its final lesson. Regret is a strange visitor. It does not come early. It waits until destruction is complete, then it knocks softly, when it is already too late. The woman started falling sick often. Her body grew weak, her voice lost its strength, and the same sons she had insulted and drained were now the ones carrying her to clinics they could barely afford. As she lay on a worn mattress, staring at the ceiling, memories began to attack her. The children taken by debtors, the ones lost to the streets, the small body of the sick child, the lifeless face of her favorite son. For the first time, fear entered her heart. Not fear of hunger, but fear of dying alone. The remaining boys grew distant. They fed her, yes, but warmth was gone. Respect was gone. They spoke less. Their eyes no longer searched her face for approval. They had matured through pain, and pain had erased innocence. One of them finally spoke one night, his voice calm but heavy. He told her the truth. He told her she had failed them. He told her that giving birth without planning was wickedness. He told her that love without responsibility was cruelty. She tried to shout back, but no insult came out. For once, her mouth was empty. Her heart shook. Tears rolled down her face. Real tears this time, not the noisy ones she used to perform for neighbors. She whispered apologies, calling names of sons who would never answer. She blamed herself finally, but blame could not resurrect the dead or restore lost childhoods. The boys listened in silence. Apology does not heal scars that deep. Hunger had shaped them. Suffering had trained them. Forgiveness was not automatic. Outside, life continued. Children laughed, families ate together. Inside that house, regret sat heavily, watching the ruins it helped create. The woman understood now that sons are not trophies, birth is not success, and greed, when disguised as culture or pride, becomes a weapon. But fate was not finished yet. One last chapter remained. One final truth was about to be spoken. The woman did not die immediately. Life allowed her to sit in her mistakes long enough to feel their full weight. Her body weakened daily, and the house that once echoed with 12 voices now held only a few tired souls. The remaining sons continued to walk, not because they loved her deeply, but because conscience refused to let them abandon her completely. They fed her, cleaned her, and watched her fade, knowing that their own lives had already been damaged beyond repair. Dreams had been buried early. Education had been stolen. Childhood had been traded for survival, all because of one foolish, greedy, arrogant woman who thought giving birth was a plan. Sometimes she talked to herself, calling out to sons who were gone, crying, begging, cursing her past self. She admitted out loud that she was stupid, that she had been rubbish-minded, that her greed and desperation to please her husband destroyed her family. The boys listened from a distance, their hearts heavy but guarded. Regret could not bring back the dead. It could not return the boys taken as payment. It could not erase the scars carved into their souls. When she finally passed away quietly one night, there were no dramatic cries, only silence. The kind of silence that comes after a long storm. At the end, the surviving sons stood by her grave, not in hatred, not in love, but in understanding. They promised themselves that her mistakes would end with her. They would not bring children into suffering. They would not repeat foolishness in the name of culture or pride. Pain had educated them better than any school ever could. If this story touched you, please like and subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment telling us where you are watching from. London, California, Jamaica, Trinidad, New York, Florida, Atlanta, Nigeria, or South Africa. We truly love to know, and we will be giving shout-outs to the first 3 comments we see. Moral lesson. Giving birth without responsibility is cruelty, not blessing. Children are not proof of success. They are lives that require planning, care, and wisdom. Greed, pride, and foolish obedience to pressure can destroy generations. True love is not in giving life, but in protecting it.